Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 in this series where we're working on this contemporary style house. And so this part we're going to dive right into the second floor. And so I'm going to do something that I kind of should have done last time, which is add a blueprint layer to our layers. I'll go into unhide, say all, and then we'll take our blueprint and make that the, say, blueprint layer. So now when I toggle this, that should go away. And then I'll go into import again and import our second layer. Now I'm assuming these textures are of the same sort of proportion or aspect ratio. So I'm just going to go ahead and stretch them 1 to 1 there. And I have to explode one of these. There we go. So this is actually the first floor. So I'm going to raise this up a foot and then raise this one up to there and then triple click this one and put it back down a foot again. And we'll say first floor on that. And we'll say blueprint this time. And then on this one as well, we'll say explode and then group. Say second floor blueprint. And then on both of these, we'll put these on the blueprint layer. And there we go. Now we have a separate layer for looking at the plans. And we'll go ahead and raise this one up to almost ceiling height there. So we can kind of see the plan that we have underneath, but still see the walls that we have drawn and see kind of where they need to go. And we're also going to put in our 24-foot ridge height that we had from the previous video, so we can kind of start getting an idea of the sort of the scale of this second floor. So if you move this up a little bit, we can see that all the exterior walls are still the same. The only thing that's changed really is that the deck comes out a little bit from the existing wall, at least on that side. And you can kind of see that in the physical plan itself. It's a little bit of an overhang right here, but all of the exterior walls themselves, I guess apart from just sort of this roof here, but there's still sort of a wall. We don't really have a good view of that side of the house, but that's not really too big of a problem because we can still just we can rough it. So without actually making any new components, I think what we're going to do is just go ahead and start outlining the existing plan, and then we can kind of figure out what we're going to do from there. I'm actually going to turn endpoints back on just to make it a little bit easier to connect the lines. So this one will go over and down, but because the line that we drew out here goes right to the edge, and because there's kind of a roof here, the only edge you're going to really notice is the one on the opposite side of this corner. You won't notice this one because the roof will be in the way. So what we'll actually do is we'll draw a line down here, and then we'll draw it out to the corner, and then back to here, like that. And now we'll have a complete line going around the edges. So this will kind of give us a basis to build off of. I'm just going to draw a line, say to, actually that's not really high enough. Let's go, let's say 6 feet. And then we'll just try and kind of fill in all of these bases so that it kind of actually starts to look a bit more like a house. So we'll hold shift and we'll make sure that there's nothing behind the line as we're drawing it. But we'll draw straight up on the blue axis, hold shift, and then that will lock the line to that axis. So now we can just go over to the corner that we have there. And there you go. It'll draw a line at the perfect height. And you can just confirm it. Alright, so now we're into this sort of kind of sketchy corner piece. And I think we can probably, we actually just get rid of that line. And just draw, kind of make this flush right out to the corner, because this is all going to be changed once we start putting that roof on. I'll draw that to there. And because this sort of stone corner piece doesn't go any higher than that, we'll just leave it to right there. Leave it at that height right now. We'll draw that to there like that. And that's sort of fine where that is. You could, draw the wood over and corner that off, but the wood doesn't actually go that high, so we'll kind of leave that where it is right now. Alright, so we'll turn the blueprints off. And we'll triple click our upstairs bit. We'll group it, say second floor. So now this is its own thing. So now we'll go in and start dragging guides to mark the walls on the interior. Drag one into there. And we'll get rid of that. So we'll say, we'll line this, we'll hit shift again and line this guide up with that corner there, because that's technically where the floor should be, at least for now. Because this actually exterior piece is that wood that kind of wraps up around the floor rather than meeting directly with it. Then we can wrap this wall around the corner there, and that one. I won't worry too much about these interior walls just yet. And so now this interior piece should be able to fill, and it does. Just didn't automatically fill. And sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes you won't get your completed shape to fill in, and all you got to do in that instance is what I did then was just sort of draw a diagonal line. It doesn't really need to be in any particular place, and it should fill in. Then you can just erase the line. And actually, if I look at the just disable the floor, yeah, that corner piece doesn't actually come on into the interior space, so that needs to be changed. So what I'll do is draw a line on the interior, and while I'm doing this, just to make it a bit easier, is go ahead and add a second floor layer. Then we can make sure that you have your second floor clicked or selected, hit second floor. We can toggle that off. And now I can just draw out this corner piece so that it isn't part of our model, and I will lower this down to here and then push that in to there like that, and erase these extra lines. And be careful when you're using K, because if you're erasing a line, it will erase lines behind it. So say for example you wanted to erase this line and you erase that corner line as well, you will erase that outside corner. So just be careful when you're doing that, because sometimes you might accidentally erase a line that you're not looking at, and it might be an hour later you realize you erased half your model and you can't really undo anymore, and you got a lot of work left to correct the mistake. So we'll leave it like that, and let's just go ahead and hide the blueprints for now. Make sure everything looks good, didn't fool anything up while erasing that. I think it looks fine. So we'll turn the second floor back on, and so we have that. So we'll go back into we have this model here, so we'll go right into the corner there and then right back over to there, and that should fix the issue we had. And we'll draw right into the corner there so that we can complete that shape as well. So what I'm going to do now, because a lot of these don't actually come into the interior space, if we just go outside the models, I'll turn second floor off, you can see that the pillar, I guess we'll call it, doesn't come into the interior in any way. So we just turn the second floor back on, turn the first floor back off. These sort of corner pieces don't really need to be excluded anymore. And that's sort of, I guess a mistake on my part, sort of just evolution of how the model is being built. So we'll go back into, turn the blueprints back off, go back into the second floor. So we'll go ahead and round off this corner. We'll draw a line from there, a line from there, and a line from there. Alright, so this is kind of actually flush with that, but I don't know if that is actually going to be like that when this is done. So we'll draw a line down to there for now, because I don't really know what's going on with this corner piece. I'll have to kind of figure that out later. We'll turn the first floor back on, we'll go into it, and then we will just trace off this corner. And I guess push it in for now. It is, I guess, technically kind of part of that window frame, but we can sort that out as we're doing the interior. Try that there. Trace these off. Okay, so now that we have all those walls drawn and completed, we'll just take the interior space that we have and we'll drag that up to the same height. Turn invisible walls off. And we'll go ahead and reverse faces on all these interior walls so that they look alright. So this is sort of our second floor area going on now. I'll just turn first floor back on so you can kind of see what we're going with this. And there's kind of a lot of different things coming together here now because we need to start figuring out how the roof looks on this side, because this wall doesn't actually go up like this. The interior wall is actually, or the exterior wall is mostly this one on the outside, because this wall angles up to kind of apex with this point, it seems, except a little bit lower. So we kind of need to figure out the roof height now. So if we just go back into there, hit 24, and see what we're looking at. So the first floor is 8'8", and because the second floor technically is kind of on 2 dimensions right now, if we just turn on invisible faces, you can see actually that the floor is just this one line right here. So we're going to actually add a bit of depth to the floor. Because the second floor is its own model, we can just take the floor of that model and raise it up, we'll say 8 inches maybe. So we'll say 8 inches. So now if we look at the floor side on, you can see that it actually has a space. So that'll give a bit of depth to our floor. So we'll turn faces off again. We'll go into this and we'll draw a guide 8'8". We'll see where that brings us. So that leaves us with a space of 6 feet, which if we look at the floor plan here again, that doesn't really look like 6 feet. But we do have this door, and those are about between, could be 7 or 8 feet, and it's not really that far off. So it could be 5 feet, could be 4 or 5 feet. So if we go ahead and raise the floors up by, I guess, a foot. So it would be, say, 9.5 feet, we'll say. So we'll go ahead and raise everything up 10 inches. So we'll go ahead and take this and say 10 inches, like that. And now we know where everything else is supposed to be underneath. We'll go into this, and I'll actually just fill this in again so that we can raise that a bit easier. And we'll take this exterior, actually we'll take all the high points first. And we'll raise these for now, but we may end up changing that a little bit later on. So we'll say 10 inches there, and highlight this one, also 10 inches. So just effectively going to change the height of everything by 10 inches. So whatever it was before, plus 10. So it's really not, there's not a whole lot of reworking anything. We'll get into sort of, I guess, the nitty gritty of that later on. And this probably shouldn't be going on into the interior, so we will get rid of that. So we'll make sure we got the right face selected. And we're probably going to have to leave that where it is. You can erase these lines, but can't really get rid of those yet. And so apparently a lot of these are coming on into the interiors, so just erase those, reverse that face as well. I guess that line doesn't even need to be there. And these edge ones don't either. But until we raise these, the base of these columns up to above the floor height of the second floor, we're going to have to leave those where they are. Otherwise, we'll end up just sort of deleting the face. Push these in, and that can be erased. Alright, so then we will go ahead and turn on, why is this height? Leave that there like that. So we'll turn on second floor, and everything should be lined up good. So then we'll go into this, and we'll take the interior again and raise it up to 9'6", which is what the height of the interior down here should be as well, and 9'6". So there we go, we got that. So we erase the guides and the interior lines. And then we'll go ahead actually and reverse all these faces again, because these are the interior. Actually, that one's not, is it? Or is it? It is. It's just lining up with the outside wall, isn't it? So I'm going to reverse all those faces. And then we will go ahead and figure out where the exterior wall height should be. But because we have this one sort of lining up with this one, we need to figure out what is going on with that. So it's probably easier to have this wall be on the first floor, because then we don't have any seams or gaps or anything in what is effectively the clapboard. However, I kind of starting to realize now that as this is really kind of the window ledge of the second floor, it makes it difficult to kind of incorporate, and if anything, a bit more confusing. So I think for now, we'll actually just go ahead and lower this to the first floor, and just so we can get a better hold on what the second floor is doing. I think with that window, because there is that window there. Alright, and just to make this easier, I'm going to erase this for now so that we can start incorporating some of the features that are part of the blueprint itself. Alright, so this is ultimately kind of the shell of the second floor. And we have the blueprints on. We'll just go outside here and look at the blueprints. We can see that we have this, actually let me delete the floor as well. So then we can kind of see, if we look down, what we're looking for. And actually in some cases it may be easier if you're working with top-down or side view plans if you go in and turn parallel projection on, because then it removes perspective. So if you just look like straight down on the model, you can see where everything lines up exactly with the plans. And you can see that it's off a bit there, but it's actually out at the correct height for these pillar pieces. But the wall itself on the interior is actually different than those pillars. So if we turn the first floor on, they do go out a little bit, but not necessarily as much as they should. So we'll actually push this wall in, say, another inch, just to compensate a little bit. We'll turn the second floor off and go in and pull these in an inch so that they measure correctly, and then turn parallel projection off again, turn the blueprints on, and then we'll raise, because we can't really see it anymore, we'll unlock this and we'll raise it up to the interior height of the second floor. So just to make this a little bit easier to follow the blueprints, we're actually going to kind of reverse a little bit. We're going to explode our second floor, and then we can start drawing in these pieces, because if we try to do that from the blueprint inside of the component, and it's actually not going to show up. Images won't really display properly inside of separate components, unfortunately. That does go in a lot farther though, doesn't it? So we will actually pull that in so that it's normal 8 inches. I can sort that out with the columns in just a little bit. And so now we will erase that guide again. And then we'll start drawing these lines in. You want to make sure that you're on the right axis as well. If your blueprint isn't exactly on the same level as your walls, then you'll start to run into issues where lines are either above or below or on a slightly different axis, even though it may be very, very close. They may end up on a slightly different axis, and then your shapes won't close properly, and it can cause you a lot of grief for just a very, very tiny and hard to notice mistake. I'm actually going to cut these shapes out right away. So I'll erase that line, and erase this line as well. Alright, so where else do we have windows? We got one here. So draw lines there. Make sure you stay on your axis. And another one there. Not pink, red. There we go. Like that. And we'll just draw it across, make sure there's one underneath it. And then do the same for the inside. And this method probably isn't all that useful if you have the exact dimensions and ceiling heights of the floor plan that you're doing. But if it's like this one, where it requires a lot of trial and error, it's probably a little bit more ideal just to play it safe so that you can fine tune things and hone it in to get the right shape and size. So now we're sort of done there. We're going to go ahead and raise up these exterior walls to the same height as the interior walls. So just grab all these top lines and we'll pull them up, and we'll hit shift so that locks to the right axis. I'll just go to a corner piece there, and then that should allow us to square everything off. There we go. We have all of that. And if you do run into issues where some of these tops aren't filling, it's probably because they're on just slightly different axes again, so you can just run around and then check and make sure that all of these remain on the green and red axis. And now, so we have that done. We can check out how it looks on the first floor. We'll turn off the blueprints and do that so that we can bring back our first floor. And we'll turn all these blue areas, we'll reverse those faces, and we are going to have to go into the first floor as well, and just hit P for push-pull tool and pull it into these faces so that they now match up with the adjusted second floor walls. And also this one doesn't really match up with the top because we kind of eyeballed that line, so we'll actually pull that in a little bit there. And now the second floor as well, I guess, should technically be part, or the deck, I guess, should technically be part of the second floor as well. So we will, I guess we should go ahead and add that. We'll just draw a line out, and because the second floor is still exploded, this makes it a bit easier to do. So we'll just draw this line out there like that, square them off. And this does actually extend out a little bit past this wall, but we can sort that out once we make the second floor back into a component again. Okay, so we'll pull this out. This almost goes flush to the edges, but not quite. So we'll do it to there for now, and then we'll pull it in 2 inches. I'll say another inch. And we are going to go ahead and raise these pillars just a little bit more. Say another 4 inches. Is that enough? Maybe not? No. Say 6 inches. And then we can raise this corner piece, or raise this window piece up 6 inches as well. Maybe 2 inches more. Like that. I kind of need to find a place where it looks good compared to the deck that we have. But the deck does actually step down a little bit from the interior space. So we're going to turn the first floor off. And this will give us a good view of the deck itself. So then we can kind of erase these corners and just get the deck. Okay, so that's the bottom of it. And then we'll need to draw lines in here, and that'll complete the top of it. But it does actually go down, if we look at the image here, the deck actually does go down a couple of inches, could be 4 or 5 inches. So we will do that. We'll say 4 inches. So we don't want to push the base of the deck any lower than it is, because then it's going to intrude into the floor underneath. So what we're going to have to do is raise the floor on the interior, which we'll probably end up having to do anyway at some point. So we'll raise that up another 4 inches, and that'll bring it up to a foot. So then we can raise this back up 4 inches again. And then a lot of the exterior sort of, I guess, flashing or molding pieces on the outside here can just kind of be decoration rather than physical depth in the deck. And then, of course, underneath is just the garage anyway. So it doesn't need to be super insulated. And so I guess this is probably closer to maybe, we'll say 3 inches thick on this. Say 3 inches there as well. And then these go out, this goes out pretty much flush to these columns. But I'll make it a little bit less than flush, be 3/4 of an inch. And then bring this out another 0.25 of an inch, because it doesn't look like it comes out too far from that original point. And then same with these, make it 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. And then this is 1/2 of an inch away from that lip, there. Then we can go ahead and take this, just this one individual piece, we'll square it off and pull this up to the height of the window there. So now that if we go ahead, and actually what we should do before we do that is triple click all of the stuff that we drew, because we did change a lot of stuff. I hit second floor. Now we can turn that off. And so now that this exterior piece will go back to the way that we had it before, but now is again just part of the first floor model. So go back, turn on the second floor, turn off first floor. We'll triple click everything. We'll say G and then hit second floor. And it will say, and component with this name already exists. Do you want to replace it? And we'll say yes, because this is the new second floor. And then what we'll do to go ahead and just wrap this video up is just put some tops on these windows and doors. And it doesn't need to be too particularly accurate right now, because we can just go ahead and change the heights of them with the push-pull tool later on. So whatever height they need to be, we can just do that. So then we'll just go ahead and drop some of these tape measures down 1 foot, draw a line across, delete the guide and pull it over. Erase it there like this. Alright, that's the second floor. Go in and reverse any of the extra little faces that need to be changed. And then we'll turn on the first floor. And I think if we just go in and type in our 24-foot height again, I think we're getting pretty accurate with this. So in the next part, we'll be focusing on doing the roof and any sort of other finishing touches that are necessary to get the proportions just right. We will obviously focus on the interior walls and all those things, and window heights and all that stuff later on. But for now, I think that's a pretty good dent in the progress of this house. Let me just go in and turn the endpoints off again. And I think that's going to wrap that up. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. I'll see you next time.